Good morning and welcome to the Cindy Russell Show on this Saturday, December 30th, 2017, 2017, and excited. That's what's happening this morning. Really excited about what's going on here in our studio. We have with us this morning our guest, Minister Kevin L A Ewing, and we say good morning.
Good morning, Cindy.
And also in studio with us this morning, Prophet Peter Spencer. Good morning.
Good morning, Cindy.
And how are both of you doing?
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Two powerful men of God here in the studio. And you know, our viewers on Facebook were very excited. I'm very excited. And we give God thanks and praise for you. And so without any further delay, we want you to know that our show is being brought to you by Sunbasket Memories, also C&G Air Conditioning, along with Richie's Calypso, also sponsoring our show, Candid Security, Russell and Pender's Funeral Home, Subway Restaurants, H&L School Supplies and Bookstore, Looking Fabulous Boutique, First Class Limousine and Charter Services, and a change of pace. Now, our topic this morning is dealing with Proverbs 3 and 6. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. And the crossover from 2017 into 2018. In previous shows, we were discussing some of the things that you need to do to get ready to cross over to 2018. Let's just go over real quick some of the things that you should have already done this month. Do you still have time to do it before the 31st tomorrow and then the 1st? Is it okay?
Yeah, well, you know, we have been reiterating, repeatedly about the fast.
Amen.
And no later, I think I did a video about a day 2 days ago, again, putting more emphasis on, by now, the fast for everyone should have already been completed. Tomorrow's the 31st. You might could still squeeze a day in there.
If you haven't eaten today.
Right. You should squeeze a day in there. But basically what that fast is going to do is, well, the purpose of it is to really cut away at the spiritual clutter, the baggage, the spiritual baggage. And it is these things that we cannot see that is dictating the things that you do see. Mm-hmm. So going into next year saying that I want to lose weight, I want to draw closer to God, I just want to build my spiritual relationship and all of that has no root if you have not engaged in the fast to cut away as to what was keeping you back.
Amen. Amen.
So it's imperative that we address it from a spiritual perspective. I would say it again, and that is, your spiritual life is what is dictating, your physical life. Okay. Whatever's happening in the spiritual world is pulling the strings to what's happening in this natural world. Thus, again, the fast. What the fast is going to do, like it is said in Isaiah 58, verse 6, it says to break the bands of wickedness, to undo heavy burdens, to set the captives free, and to break every yoke. But of four of these categories are spiritual. These are not physical things that's being suggested here. It is saying that when we engage in the fast, these are the things that is going on behind the scenes in the spiritual realm. Once those shackles, those chains that has had us anchored in those places of defeat, anti-progress, and all these other things has been cut away spiritually.
That's right.
It is automatic that physically we will now propel, go forward, excel, and catapult to the various levels that God has assigned to us before the foundation of the world.
Amen. 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 I agree with Minister Ewing. Fasting is like an atomic bomb. It's like an atomic bomb. And, I've had encounters where I had to fast because there was so much opposition, so much problems that I was going through. And I had to learn to do this. And I recall an incident when I was faced with some serious lawsuits because of, recent events that had happened in my company. And I was telling Mr. Ewing that the only way I got out of that situation was through fasting. And, it totally turned the situation around, and I saw the value and the benefits of fasting. So I totally agree with Minister Ewing in that fasting will catapult you to your next level.
Mm-hmm. I know we did a show on Thursday evening, the prophetic protocol and prayers. And one of the things that you mentioned was a 40-day fast, where you said before you really got into your prophetic gift, you were it was a little cloudy, and the 40-day fast cleared it up.
Yes, you know, I was struggling. I was struggling. It seemed to hit and miss. Seemed to kind of just not getting a grasp on it. Like, you know, Minister Ewing was saying, you know, it really, when you fast, it will break those blockages, and also some things that are in us that we need to break. So what happened is I was desperate, and desperation breeds, is a matter of necessity. So I went on a 40-day fast, and I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell none of my mentors or anybody. But when I came out of that fast, I had a dream where I saw me walking in the midst of two major prophets in the nation, and I was doing what they're doing. And then instantly after the fast, God birthed me into my ministry.
Okay. Now, so after the fast, what would you suggest that people do while they're fasting, like today and tomorrow, even if it's a half-day fast?
Even if it's a half-day fast, one of the first things that I would suggest is, in entering a fast, your main focus or thoughts shouldn't be, I can't wait for this fast to over. I hope I lose a few pounds. Man, this is a difficult thing. See, you're literally defeating the purpose of what you're doing. Remember, and let me put emphasis on this. When you are going on a fast, you are literally entering head-on the spiritual realm. There's nothing about the fast other than not eating and not drinking that's physical about your fast. Your fast is to literally pull back the curtains and push you into the unseen world. This is why immediately when you go on a fast, you begin to have dreams, because you now begin to see excerpts of the things that's pending for you or against you for this physical world. What is even more interesting, what I love about a fast, and this is the best analogy I could give, a fast is like taking a red spray, spraying out your home. You go to sleep, and when you wake up the next morning, all the cockroaches and everything that are already dead on the floor. Amen. So what a fast does, you begin to have all of these nightmares or people running after you or stuff biting you. So the Lord is showing you what the spiritual clutter in your life. My God. All of these animals and serpents, these are the demonic forces that's eating away at you. Listen what the scripture says in Joel chapter 2, verse 25. Look at the analogy that God used. God said, I will restore unto you the years, listen what he says now, the cankerworm, the caterpillar, the locust, and the palmer worm. These, you've never seen these insects eating at your life. But these insects are symbolic of the evil forces in the spiritual realm that was eating away at your blessing. Jesus. So God says, I'm going to restore you. Yes. If you take the time and go on Google or what have you, and look at the eating or behavioral patterns of a caterpillar, a locust, a palmer worm, you look at it. Just how you see that there in the physical is exactly how it was consuming at your blessings. Now you may say, Kev, what blessings are you talking about? All of us are blessings. Yes. The scripture says to us in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. It says, blessed be the Lord our God, who has already, past tense, blessed us with all, not some, all spiritual blessings. My God. It says in heavenly places or in the spiritual realm. Yes. Now, the next verse, verse 4, says that he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world. So before God created the world and set it on its foundation, he sorted all of us out as it relates to our blessings. So when the enemy coming at you, you say, oh my Lord, I lose my keys. Oh my Lord, this divorce. Oh my Lord, I don't have more money. This the devil. No. This is the result of the devil. What already took place was already in the spiritual realm. You never challenge it with prayer. You never challenge it with fasting. So the manifestation of what was conceived in the unseen world This physical world is where it's birth.
My God.
So fasting, intercession, standing in the gap, midnight prayers, the purpose of it is to shut it down in the unseen world, to obliterate it so it do not pass here in this world. It's as simple as that.
Wow. Thank you, Minister Kevin. Prophet Peter, someone is asking about your 40-day fast on Facebook. How was it? What did you do? They want to know what kind of fast was it?
I love the analogy with the roach, what Minister Ewing did, because that's my thing. I
Right,
put stuff
right,
it up.
right.
So I totally get that, Minister. On the 40-day fast, I went. Like I said, it was an extreme situation. I didn't know I was birthing into the ministry. I just wanted to get out of this lawsuit. Because after the situation went down with my company, which I spoke about, there was a situation where some of my partners had left me in the hole, so to speak, and the creditors wanted their stuff. So I had to go on a fast because it was looking at some really serious money, like 6 figures, to pay these people back.
Desperate situation.
Yeah, it was actually looking at jail time.
Ooh.
And so I think the Lord used that scenario to cause me to fast. But what I did do is I start off with just water and juice. I remember the first 3 days, like Mr. Ewing was saying, there was all these things coming at you, all these, you're seeing dreams with demons chasing you and this happening. And there was a lot of resistance. And, you'll have people always trying to offer you food. People always want to give you stuff. And when I entered into that phase, it created a desire in me, because after the 3 days, after that period, you felt like you can die, like you want to give up. But it was psychological hunger, and I think it was the enemy trying to get me to move away from it. So when I entered into the 4th day, I felt like a brand new man. Like you were saying, it's almost like you got this new power, this new energy, this new force. Your skin feels better. People are saying, "Man, what you doing? You looking good. This happening to you." So it is so beneficial in so many areas. And so when I hit the 30th day is when I really begin to see progress. Contracts and stuff that was taken from me, they begin to come back. People begin to call me back for jobs and contracts, and even the verdict that they had over me was destroyed. In other words, they came and they told me, "Listen, we're not going to pursue this anymore. As a matter of fact, we want to work it out with you. Can you come see us and we can work it out? Can you pay us something every month?" So that's what I'm talking about. That it's like a bomb. It's like a nuclear bomb that literally will catapult you into your next season and dimension.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Proverbs 3 and 6.
Right. Proverbs 3 and 6, very, very interesting principle. And I want to put emphasis on that because a lot of times when we read our Bible, we just reading it because the pastor say read it, or we feel, I haven't read it in a while, let me just read this Bible. Amen. This book is a book of laws, rules, principles, precepts, commands. When you respect it in that manner, you will now achieve the benefit that it was designed to give to you.
Yes, sir.
In Proverbs chapter 3, and I want us to read it, and I'm going to read from verse 5 actually to verse 6. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 says, "Trust in the Lord," and this is a command, "but not peace of your heart." It says, "with all thine heart, and lean not unto your own understanding."
Amen.
So when you make up your mind, the first rule you're being, the first command, the first instruction is putting things in perspective.
Yes, sir.
You must trust God. Trust God really means this: abiding by His word.
Amen.
Then it says to you, now that you decided to trust God, you got to shut your way of doing things down.
My God.
See, I've met many people who I sat with, especially young ladies. "Oh, Kevin, I'm in love with this guy, and he isn't saved, but I believe if we go, the Lord will save him. I can help him get saved." You can't get nobody saved. That ain't your job.
You couldn't save yourself.
Right, you couldn't save yourself. Okay? It took you almost 40, 50 years to get saved. Why you can get him saved?
That's right.
So you got to shut down your desires.
Amen.
You want this house, you want this job, you want this promotion, whatever it is. Shut it down.
Yes, sir.
And the scripture says now you must put your trust in God. Lean on God, not your desire anymore, right? Watch what happens next in verse 6. Now put emphasis is, "in all thy ways acknowledge Him."
Amen.
So not only did it say trust in Him and shut down your way of doing things,
My God.
It now saying now every other way where you was running your own show, acknowledge God in this. Normally I'll pick up the phone and call him this time, but you know what? I wonder if God want me to do this.
Wow. I love that, man.
Normally what I'll do is call the place to see if they get my application yet, but you know what? Let me see where God is on this.
Wow.
So when it says acknowledge him in all your ways, you have to do just that.
Yes.
And that literally means think first, does God want me to do this?
Yes, Jesus.
Not me, because if it was up to me, I'd have been following my routine that I was doing yesterday.
My God.
So the scripture says in verse 6 of Proverbs chapter 3, in all thy ways acknowledge him. Now watch the result once you follow this spiritual rule. In all thy ways, Cindy, acknowledge him which is God, and he which is God, he will now, or he shall, what? Direct my path.
Amen.
God, I want you to direct my path. Okay, follow my rule,
Yes.
follow my principle,
Yes.
follow my protocol.
Absolutely.
How many people you've met and they fall in love with somebody, right? And once they fall in love with them, Prophet Peter, this is who God got for me.
Yes.
God
yes.
spoke to me in a dream.
My
Or
God.
God spoke to me in my spirit.
Jesus.
It says that John. I'll give a true story. Years ago, this had to be like about 15 years ago, and I remember meeting this lady, and I was pursuing her first, and she was really dissing me and so on. But I was persistent. She finally went out on a date for me. We started to date and so on. Anyway, as we get deeper in the relationship, it's like about 6-7 months now. She said to me one day that the Lord spoke to her and said that the Lord said that, we were supposed to be together. Now, at this point, I'm going to be honest, at this point, I'd already realized that this was not the woman for me.
My God.
After the 6 months thing, because there's things that I saw on there that I know I couldn't do with the picture, right? So I say, and the thing is, when she revealed this quote unquote revelation, she don't know at that time I was trying to find a strategy to get out of this relationship. Right? Right.
At this point, she's looking for a ring.
Right. So this is the whole idea of saying that. Here's my point in this example, though. You see, now that her flesh is satisfied with Kevin, she converts it to God.
Yes.
God told me. Because she's so in love, because she's so high on her emotions, and she's a Christian, she now takes that, which got nothing to do with God, and she now converts it. Just like how you will convert a Word document to PDF, that's what she did. So she comes to me, she said, the Lord, X, Y, Z. But anyway, guess what? Honest to goodness, a year later, because we eventually separated. She was married.
Oh, wow.
A year later.
She got over you fast.
Yeah.
No, where's the Lord in this? Let's not forget getting over me. I didn't hear that. That was a plus for me. My thing is, and a lot of people are going through that right now.
Yes, my God.
They have no idea that this person who has now manipulated their own faith
My God.
is about to tie their lives up for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
My God.
See, they don't see that far. They just see, okay, but don't work. No, man. No. The courts will tell you, you could get married easy. That's simple to do.
Yeah.
But when it's time to divorce,
Oh, my God.
you got to meet the standards that are required. They got to make sure there's no collusion and all this other stuff. Then not only that, if you got children, you got to deal with that. You got property. So this person is tied to your life, and don't let it be a miserable person whose sole goal for your life is to make it miserable until the day you die. But my point is, had you followed this principle, had you followed this, God would have been speaking to you from day one. No, my son, don't do it. My daughter, don't you do it. He would have given you dreams and the prophets and Peters and whoever.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen. Yeah, I totally agree with the man of God because I remember a scenario where I went through a situation, and it was along the lines of relationship too. And I remember halfway through the relationship that it wasn't for me, but the person you would always speak negatively to me. After a while, they started off for the first 3 months. They were really, really good, and then all of a sudden they shifted, and man, they began to really speak like these derogatory stuff to me.
Like
and,
what?
Like they will say stuff like, you ain't good enough.
For her?
Yeah, you need to step up to the plate. You need to be like so and so. You need to be like that guy. And so I found myself jumping through a lot of hoops. And a gentleman came to me, a prophet came to me, and he said, I don't see this relationship really going nowhere. You need to break it. But at that time, I was really, really into the lady, and so I kept it up. But the Lord have a way of stripping you. because at the end of the day, they had me even doubting my call. They took me to 3 psychiatrists because, you know, I was always seeing these things, having dreams and vision. And
this is the lady you were dating?
yeah.
She took you to the psychiatrist?
Yeah, because they thought I was going crazy with the dreams and the visions and seeing stuff. And so, you know, God was just birthing me into that phase. And I had already gotten the engagement rings, and, you know, we had the big, you know, family gathering and all that. And if you don't be careful, like Minister said, you know, some people will come into your life and they will have you tied down for the next 10, 15 years of pure terror. And the Lord was trying to save me, but I kept going into the relationship, kept trying to initiate it. I left about 9 times and came back. And eventually what happened is it got to the point where it was like she was toxic to me. We'd row coming from council, we'd row going to council, we'd row in church, we'd row after church, we'd argue in the parking lot, then I'd go to her parking lot and argue. We would argue until the phone ran hot. So I knew, and you know, those old Nokias. Right. So I totally get it when you know, you need to acknowledge the Lord in all your ways and allow the Lord to direct your path. But so what eventually happened is I had to go to her and say, listen, it's not me, it's not you, it's me. You know, I'm the one who's messed up. I'm the one who need to get out of this, because what would have happened was if I had gotten married to a lady, I think I would not be the man I am today, because she would have shut me down, and we would have probably, you know, been either killing. I would either kill her or she'd kill me, because that's the way it was. It was just pure toxic.
Yeah, you would have missed out on tequila.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, just to add to what Peter said there, Prophet Peter said there, and that is, and I'm going to put emphasis on this piece here. Whenever a person has a major call on their lives, particularly men, and I've seen this over and repeatedly, there is always someone assigned by the enemy, saturated with a Jezebel, Delilah spirit to pull that individual off course. He or she may think it's just a regular relationship. You know, you're going around the mill like any other person. No, you're different. Yes. And the mere fact that you're different as it relates to God's standard and those whom He wants you to impact, the enemy has a counter attack against you. And that's why you find most solid men of God. Tell me your story, sir, and they will tell you. And for the most part, it was relationship related. In the name of Jesus. And that is, I mean, and I'm telling you, the enemy will send out that person who have what you like on the surface. Everywhere. See, but you will know immediately as you begin to get into the relationship, because just like the lady I was telling you about, from the surface, you know, I can see this being first lady. Yes. Okay? I can envision all of that, well-dressed and so on, all of that. As we begin to get into the relationship, spend time with each other, and I saw this domineering spirit, this controlling spirit, and there's no subtlety about it. I mean, it's either their way or no way, and when you don't give them their way, they become this petty child kicking and screaming. And I sat down one time and I said, boy, Kevin, boy, I remember my mother used to say to me all the time, to this day, she said, boy, a little can tell you what a lot is going to be like. My God. And when I thought about that, I said, you know what, you don't need to be no genius to figure this out. If you're getting these little pieces now, and you decide to legally bind yourself to this situation, my God, boy, listen, you might as well volunteer for the crazy. Don't come looking for me. I can come to you. Absolutely. So the man of God, and this, I'm speaking more so about men. Amen. A man of God from the kingdom of darkness, there are forces assigned to this man, Jesus, specifically to derail him off of his course. And here is why. Because this particular person, see, their destiny isn't about them. Their destiny entails thousands, perhaps millions of people. Amen. Now, for the most part, in their lifetime, they will probably never meet these people. But the way it's going to work is almost like a pyramid scheme. You might minister to somebody today, change things in their life through your advice. They tell that to someone else, apply that. You never going to meet this person after them. You never going to meet that person. when you stand before your God and see your record, and He
God.
showed all these billions of souls was saved. You don't forget, Lord, I don't remember all of this.
My God. It's powerful.
Right, you may not remember it, but through your action of giving my word, speaking, not allowing yourself to be derailed by the forces that came at you. You stayed in fasting. You stayed committed to reading and studying the word. You stayed on your course in spite of what they did to you at church or whatever. You stayed there. As a result of that, while they were hating on you, you were still working. And this is the result of it. Look at the amount of people who were destined for hellfire. But because you stayed committed, because you did your videos, because you ministered to people, because you spoke to people at all hours of the morning, ministering to them,
Yes.
look how not only
Yes.
they got saved and delivered, but you broke generational curses. You destroyed things that the enemy has implemented
my God.
that was supposed to destroy from generation to generation. So for the haters out there, keep hating, buddy. You ain't gonna pull Kevin. I'm sure you ain't gonna pull Prophet Peter off his course.
Amen.
We're gonna continue to go until the Lord see fit to take us home.
Amen.
And you
My
know,
God.
both of you have that same calling in your life where so many people you are called to minister to. I don't know how you do it, but the grace of God is on you.
Amen.
Because you do it with such love
Amen.
and genuine concern and care for the people of God. Anything
Amen.
you want to say, Prophet Peter, before we go take a break?
Sure.
But just before that, sorry, someone wanted to know, since you were talking about men, they wanted to know on the Facebook, asking the question, what do you think is the greatest, I guess, stumbling block or problem that women who are called to the ministry, what do they face? Because you talked about men,
Right.
so what do women face?
Let me answer that. Okay.
Both of you.
All right. And it has been my experience that the greatest obstacle that women face in ministry, and you're going to be very shocked by this, is themselves.
My God. My God.
The greatest obstacle a woman who is called to preach, minister,
Jesus.
prophesy, whatever, her biggest problem is her.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I thought you were going to say the biggest obstacle would be a man.
No. She
Wow.
will allow that man to become an obstacle. If she said the members, she will allow the members to become the See, when you call to do what God has called you to do, that's your focus. You don't focus on the stumbling block. You don't focus on the petition, the wall. That's not your focus. Wherever God has called you, He has made the provision for you to prosper. Nowhere in the scriptures or the Bible could show me where God called men and women to fail.
My God. My God.
Nowhere.
My God.
So therefore, if you are facing consistent failure in something, check you.
Wow.
It ain't God. But back to the women now. Women,
Wow.
it has been, again, my opinion. I find most women, most of them, to be insecure. And this is why I'm saying that they become their own problem. And insecure in this way, not that they're not adequate or skilled enough. They are, I believe that. But they're so trying to meet a man's standard.
Wow.
You're different.
Wow.
You're a woman, he's a man, he has a calling, you have a calling. Focus on your calling.
My God.
If you're called to be a pastor, if you're called to be a prophetess, and we're speaking about women now, if you're called to be an intercessor, that's where your focus should be. That's where your study should be. That's where you should be literally fine-tuning. You don't become distracted because the pastor say, well, I don't like women preachers, or I don't believe women should be preaching. You don't got time for that.
Amen.
You know how many people that say to me, Kevin, you have your own church? You have a physical building? No, I don't. Well, who's your covering? Jesus Christ is my covering.
Amen. Amen.
So you don't have a covering? Yeah, I have a covering. I just told you. But you're sitting in front of me seeking counsel. Don't you have a covering?
Wow.
Why are you here?
That's powerful, my God.
So obviously this so-called covering
My God.
theology isn't working.
My
Because
God.
if it was, you should not be from your church, where your covering is, to be sitting with me for 4 or 5 hours.
Jesus. Wow.
And sometimes more than one.
Right.
session.
Right.
Multiple sessions.
Right. So
Jesus.
let's put aside all of the clutter once again, and let's get to what you are called to do. I know what I'm called to do. Prophet Peter knows what he's called to
Amen.
do. We are activating, have already activated, and activating and living in that call.
Amen.
He is not, I am not distracted this is coming back to the women preachers. Don't become distracted because they say women ain't supposed to preach.
Jesus.
You ain't supposed to prophesy. Oh, the members don't like you. Oh, they talking about you. Your master Christ, not only did they talk but to him, they crucify him.
Jesus.
Right. So
We are.
the women biggest problem, women who are in ministry, the biggest problem that they will face is themselves. The last thing I'm going to add here is that those who, like I say, the biggest problem is themselves, and a part of that big problem is they want to lead almost like in a dictator type style.
Yes.
To say, and the reality is they're trying to compete
That's it.
with a man. Now they wouldn't say that, but watch the action, because in their mind, okay, if y'all will do this for Minister so and so, the male, why you wouldn't do it for me?
My God.
When you find people, men or women, in a pulpit, and they have to always remind you that they're the pastor or the leader here, they have an insecurity problem.
My God.
Major. They have a serious
my God.
internal problem
Yes.
as it relates to leadership. They're not confident about themselves.
Yes.
If you have to consistently say to me, you are already an answer, then I don't think you show up that. No, think about that. How many years you been doing this?
A very, very,
Very long time,
Wow.
right? So if
Wow.
every time you have to stop and say, now, Prophet Peter, Minister Kevin, I can straighten you all right now. I'm an announcer. If you gotta constantly tell me that, after X amount of years of announcing, I mean, let's be real now. You don't have to be spiritual here.
Real.
Something wrong with this person,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah,
have to
something
agree.
wrong, man. That's like me every day I have to tell you all, now I'm Kevin. Every time we talk, I am Kevin. Something that's not connecting it. So women preachers, my advice to them is to study in the area God has called you, sharpen or fine tune those skills and operate. Focus on that, not the people that's coming against you. Find your confidence in God, not you. Once you find your confidence in God, you automatically become confident.
My God.
All right?
Ginger on Facebook is saying, ouch. It's like, ooh, you know, we didn't expect that.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, we didn't. We thought you were going to say a man. And Atlanta Smith in Nagua, she said, boom.
Man, that's the truth.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, a lot of times we need to get rid of wounds, old wounds, and women they have a different makeup from men, and I agree with Minister Ewing. They could be their worst enemy because they're emotional, and so you'd find that if they don't get healed in those areas, and if they don't stop trying to compete, because they were trying to outdo the man simply to show that they could do it better.
In your experiences, that's happened a lot too?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you meet a lot of prophetess that they will try to outgun you, outshine you, out-prophesy you, because it's not about competition. It's really about completion, and so they have to, like you said, get healed in those areas, those wounds. For a woman to even move out in her ministry and calling, she has to know who she is, and like you said, not focus on the noise in the market, so to speak. Because if you know who you are in God, you don't need no covering. You don't need nobody to tell you this or that, because you wouldn't know who you are. You have Jesus Christ as your covering. But women, they could be their own worst enemy, simply because of the emotional component too, and the fact that some of them are very competitive. So that's my 5 cents.
You mean competitive among themselves already?
Yeah, and one of the symbols for them too is the cattiness. You'd hear cattiness. They just love to pick on each other. They'll say, "Well, why is that woman just like that? Look at her. She had to come out looking like that." As for me and Minister Ewing, we'll be like, "Hey man, yeah, this cool guy, but that's as far as it go. Yeah, cool dude." And we'll go on that. But women, they will pick each other apart. I've listened to them talk about each other, and I say, "Wow, you think she had to dress like that today? Why she look like this today? Why is she coming like this today? Look at her here. Where she get her weave from?" Makes sense, Minister Ewing?
Wow.
Yeah. So there is that element of being healed, totally healed, and constantly seeking to find that balance and to stay in your call, stay in your lane, basically. Yeah, man.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do, it is 51 minutes past 10 where we are. We are in the Bahamas, Freeport Grand Bahama on the Mall Drive in the Harold de Gregory building. And we are on the third floor. ZNS, the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas, and we say hello to the world, to our viewers on Facebook in South Korea, also in Ireland. In Ireland, it's afternoon over there.
Wow.
Also in Australia, Canada, Arkansas.
Oh my God.
We have Atlanta Smith in Nagua. People all over the world, all over the Bahamas tuning in. We will take a break and we'll come back with more as we continue with the crossover, talking this morning with my guest, Minister Kevin L A Ewing, along with Prophet Peter Spencer, and we are discussing, from 2017 going into 2018. Stay tuned and stay with us. We invite you to give us your questions if you're on Facebook, if you want to call the show, 352-3984. Locally from the Family Islands, 1242-300-6233. We'll be back with more right after this.
Amen.
Your memories are irreplaceable. Let the professionals at Sandbasket Memories capture your life in pictures. Family get-togethers, graduations, christenings, passport photos, studio portraits, wedding and event photography, photocake imagery, church services and events, corporate functions, and so much more. Sandbasket Memories also offers digital options, including photograph restoration. Don't leave your memories on your cell phone. Keep them for a lifetime. Call Sandbasket Memories today. Located at number 317 Center, phone 352-5552. Candid Security, located on Polaris Drive, offers guard services, armored services, mobile patrol, and wheelchair services. Candid Security has a professional cadre of uniformed security officers to maintain a secure and safe environment. The experience at Candid Security is unmatched. The company offers a vast range of services: aviation and airport security, maritime, retail stores, banks and financial institutions, hotels, casinos, industrial plants, including residential and special events security. Candid Security Limited, located on Polaris Drive. Give them a call today, 352-5499. When searching for quality footwear, comfort is just as important as price. So shop at Richie's Calypso 1, 2 and Kids, downtown Churchill Square. Richie's Calypso 1, 2 and Kids invites you to slip into their stylish and comfortable line of formal, church, and work shoes, including a variety of sandals, perfect for spring and summer. And match it all up with stunning evening bags, priced reasonably low. Shop at Richie's Calypso 1, 2 and Kids for quality footwear for the entire family, downtown Churchill Square. Saying goodbye to a loved one is never easy. Russell and Pinder's Funeral Home, located in 8 Mile Rock, is a family business providing burial, cremation, and funeral services. As the oldest and most experienced morticians on Grand Bahama, your family and your departed loved one will receive special care and attention. Plan ahead. Inquire about pre-funeral arrangements. The caring and compassionate staff at Russell and Pinder's will serve you with dignity, understanding, and professionalism. Phone 348-2340 or 727-5103. You may also contact them at 351-2435 or 352-9398. Russell and Pinder's Funeral Home.
At Subway Restaurant, the taste will win you over with their hot and cold 6-inch or foot-long sandwiches prepared right before your eyes. You choose the toppings and they pile them high on your favorite sub. Salads, wraps, chips, delicious cookies, and lots more are also available. Subway, now at 3 great locations: Port Lucaya, Queens Plaza, and the Elamar Mini Mall. Subway, eat fresh.
Christmas is just around the corner. Find gifts that capture the interest interest and personality of the young and the old alike. Activity workstations, remote control cars, trucks, person beauty sets, dolls, CD players, bicycles, tablets, letter blasters, Robotech, drones, and helicopters, electronic keyboards, guitars, and so much more. Make family game night a blast with exciting word and trivia games, gift bags, wrapping paper, books, travel bags. The Christmas gift ideas are endless. Shop at H&L School Supplies and Bookstore at number 2 Arcade Building, downtown Freeport. Telephone them at 352-5470.
Okay, as we're getting back into our broadcast this morning, if you're just tuning in, it's the Cindy Russell Show, and our topic, it's the crossover, and we're also focusing on Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6, and 2017 to 2018. As we reflect today and tomorrow, I just want to ask a little bit about what we should be thinking about. We want to say hello and Happy New Year to Patricia Osborne. She's in South Korea, and she says it's already New Year over there.
Okay.
So we say Happy New Year to her.
Okay.
And also some folks in Jamaica. And we should be expecting, I think, a call from New York soon. So we invite you to call 1242-352-3984. So as we are getting ready to leave 2017, what are some of the things that we should be thinking about? What are some of the things that we should be doing? What should we reflect on in 2017? We can't just go over.
Right.
What should we leave? What should we carry?
Well, I will answer, but let me just kind of preempt that with this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, many listening to me right now, many watching us by Facebook, have been prophesied to this year. And I'm talking in abundance. Some of y'all, any prophet that you hear was coming in town, you pack your little Josie bundle, which a couple $1,000, and you run to that prophet. And many of those prophets were not true men and women of God.
My God.
As a result of that, the things that they have spoken to you were not of God, but were laced with demonic prophecies. I was doing a teaching 2 days ago on Revelation 16 verses 13 and 14, where John the Revelator said that he saw these the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, and out of them came spirits, evil or unclean spirits that looked like frogs. That's what he said. Not only that, he said that these spirits had the ability to do miracles. This really caught my attention.
My God.
Because my mind then ran on Exodus chapter 7, I think beginning at verse 20, somewhere about there, when Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh, in so many words, says, who would give you the nerve to come and confront me, a world superpower? Who God is backing you? Show us a miracle.
My God.
And the Bible says that Moses instructed Aaron, his brother, to throw his staff on the ground, and his staff became a snake. Pharaoh in turn said, man, that's it? that's the best you could do? But listen what happens next. The scripture says that Pharaoh sent for his wise men, his sorcerers, and the greatest magicians of Egypt, all deep into the occult, deep into esoterics and so on. They came there, and they all threw their staff on the ground and replicate the exact miracle that Moses did. My question was, if you were in that time, how would you tell who is of God and who is not?
Right.
So what I'm saying, that many people under the sound of my voice, Prophet Peter, who many false prophets spoke over them and levied curses on their life and has hindered and added more shackles to them. You need to do the fast to break it before you go to the next.
My God. Oh my God.
Okay, so what we're going to do right now is go to our phone lines, and we have someone on the phone from Brooklyn, New York, and we say good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Wow.
And what's your name? Where are you calling from? Brooklyn, right?
Yes, Candace.
Okay, Candace. Hi, Candace. How are you? Wonderful for you to be with us. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question for Kevin. I emailed him also. I have been having some little setbacks in 2017. I feel, well, not just a feeling, I know that it's like every time I reach a certain junction of my life, things remain the same.
Wow.
It's like it recurs itself over and over. And as you guys are speaking on prophecy just now, I don't have anything against prophets, but coming out of a cult is like, it's very hard for me to accept certain things. I'm very skeptical. And I'm very skeptical in saying amen to people and what they're saying. I find that, the prophets now, they speak mainly about money and bring this and bring that, and I'm not one, to run into stuff like this. It's like, so what do I do now to reverse things from happening that happened in 2017?
Did you say coming out of a cult?
Yeah, I came out of a cult.
What kind of cult was it?
I was a Baptist, and a lot of people call it Shango Baptist. It sounds scary, but it's not Shango.
Yeah.
It's actually Orisha.
Yeah.
Shango is just one of the demons, but that's what I was in. And then I lightly tapped into Kabbalistic.
Right. I got it.
Wow, wow.
All right, these gentlemen obviously know what you're talking about.
Yes.
So can you just hold
Yeah.
on? Yes, can you hold on and you'll get your answer? Okay.
Well, first of all, when she mentioned the word cult, this Candace, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, Candace. When she mentioned the word cult, I mean, I kind of knew the answer right away. Any organization, as it relates to that which is spiritual, once you become a part of that, you see, becoming a part of them physically, meaning that you're attending their services, you're doing their rituals, you're making commitments or sowing into the ministries or whatever it is, that's just the surface. The reality is you are in covenant. See, this is the key. And remember in my teachings, I always say this. In order for the things of the spiritual realm to manifest in our physical world, the mediator is a covenant.
Jesus.
When God came to Abraham, he began to tell Abraham the things that he's prophesying what he's going to do. You will have the children like the sand of the sea, your generations, blah, blah, blah. And then they will come into a nation that will hold them captive for 400 years. But after that, I will release them. All of these things were going to happen hundreds of years, even after Abraham would have been dead.
Amen.
But in verse 18 of Genesis 15, it clearly states, and God made a covenant with Abraham.
My God.
So the covenant gave the Spirit, which is the Spirit of God,
My God.
to run its course, not just in the life of Abraham, but throughout his lineage.
Wow.
What am I saying? A part of that organization that Candace was, even though Candace would have left physically,
Can you call the name again? Someone wanted you to call the name.
or the name is, they call it, I think, Ogon, but it's Orisha or something Baptist.
Orisha.
Orisha.
Right, Orisha. Right. I think they also call it spiritual Baptist. I think that's another name for it, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, she
Right.
said O-R-I-S-H.
Right. But in any event, if you study that particular religion, you're going to immediately come up with some red flags.
Jesus.
So what has happened now, because she was a part of it, a spiritual covenant was forged.
Yes.
That even though you left physically, spiritually you're still tied. As a result of that, you are now limited
My God.
in your spiritual life.
My God.
Success, advancement,
Yes.
all of these things now, the spirits from that place have you tied, shackled, anchored. So what you need to do, Candace, is you need to go on a fast. I would recommend a 3-day dry fast,
My God.
specifically asking God to break,
Yes.
to sever indefinitely the spiritual agreement that was made between you and that organization, and ask God to release you from their altars.
My God, my God, my God.
Okay,
Powerful.
Kevin, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I did that before. I've been saved 2 years. And when I actually came out of the cult, I got a visit from the Holy Spirit.
Praise God.
While I was in the cult, I didn't know what it was. While I was doing all these blood sacrifices and stuff like that, I felt it in my heart something wasn't right. So I prayed and I asked God, I said, God, there's something about this is not feeling right. And when I would pick up my Bible and read, I literally felt hands choking me. And I denounced it. I came out and I denounced it. And I had a visitation from what I know now to be the Holy Spirit. And he came to me and he said, the religion you're in is a cult. You need to get out.
My God.
And that's how I know it was a cult. And I came out of it. I renounced these things. I do fast on a daily basis. And now that I'm going through your studies, Kevin, I see where you spoke about satanic calendar, because of just last year, last year, November, someone tried to kill me. And God showed me in a dream. And this person now is now dead. So again, it's like I denounce all these things. Why are certain things still reoccurring as far as my finances and, you know, like my book sales and stuff is not what it's supposed to be.
Great. Now, here is another thing you need to look at, because first of all, the covenant is key to be broken. But I also find, Prophet Peter, that while people are breaking covenants, they are entirely unaware that those covenants are being reinstated via their dreams.
Yes, man of God.
Sexual dreams. Not only that, many people who come out of occults or different false religion, even though they would have said, okay, Kevin, I've broken the covenant, I've fasted, I've done all of that stuff, but I'm still going through so and so. You now need to do a house cleansing.
Amen.
What are the paraphernalia from those particular places
Amen.
that you have in your place? You may not even take note of it. As simple as a pamphlet from their organization. Let me tell you why. The scripture says to us in it's Joshua chapter 6. Remember, God gave them clear instructions and as to how to overthrow supernaturally the walls of Jericho by going around it X amount of times. But he made a very, very serious point. He said, now, listen carefully. He says, do not touch anything inside of the walls of Jericho except for the things that I tell you. He said, because those things in there are, he didn't say curse. He said, a curse. There's a difference. He says, a curse. I went and I looked up that word, Prophet Peter, in the Hebrew. The word itself, I can't pronounce it, but it's churens. That's the best way I can put it. And here's what it means. It means an item or an object that is marked for destruction.
Jesus. Wow.
So listen what God's saying in layman's terms. He says, do not touch anything in Jericho, because the things in there are accursed, or they are all marked for destruction. He didn't end there. Watch what he says next. He says, don't touch it, because if you do, least you become accursed.
Yes.
But who is he talking to? The children of God. He ain't talking to no sinners. He ain't talking to no witchcraft workers. So he's telling the children of God, he's saying, listen, even though I'm your God, even though I'm your Savior, if you put your hand to this thing that I tell you not to touch, you now become marked for destruction.
My God,
even though you are Christian.
Jesus. Wow.
So this is why we need to find out, what could we have in our possession from these places? Not and it's causing us not to get to the next level, even though we've followed the routine and protocols.
My God.
Okay.
My God.
All right, Candace.
Wow.
Thank you so much for calling and sharing with us.
That's awesome.
Okay, and please check the email. Send an email to me. Your story. I'd appreciate it so much. Okay, thank you. And anything you wanted to add, Prophet Peter?
There again, Minister Ewing made an excellent point. You have to do house cleaning. I dealt with a similar situation where someone took a lady to a friend who was a friend, and the guy asked her in the service to bring him 7 cigarettes and to bring a bottle of rum and to bring her some food that she was gonna give to her. I said, well, Obatala is one of the Rishas from the demon god pantheon from Yoruba. And I said, you need to get rid of that food. You need not to go see this man again, because you will be ensnared. Just like Minister Ewing said, this situation almost caused the woman to go crazy. She had almost aligned herself with evil forces called the Rishas. These churches are here even now. I know that there are 7 Ogans and 7 witchcraft priests that are practicing now, and they have meetings at a very, very, very distinguished building and business. So this is prevalent, and once you get ensnared, like the man of God said, it'll be hard to get out. You have to do house cleaning. You have to go on those fasts to break that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, so right now we have from the United Kingdom, Angela, and we say, hello, Angela, how are you? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, how are you? Okay, I'm fine. What time is it over there in the UK?
It is 4.
Okay. So do you have a question? Wonderful for you to call us all the way from the UK. We appreciate your call so very much.
Jesus.
So what's your question?
My question is this: that I was in a cult as well, and because I was in the cult, I have all of these things in my body, what they call strangers. And I went on a 40-day fast because I saw in a dream that something wanted to kill me. But I didn't know that it was a cult, and I was using their oil. So the things got stronger. So now they're all over the body. And I'm not sure, I've tried to fast. I even went to a ministry that does those books about prayer rating.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, unfortunately, they gave me some olive oil during the 3 days because I manifested. So they were trying to like deal with that. And I'm just wondering what can I do because it's a lot. And also I watched something by Minister Kevin about the false prophets and the frogs. And 2 years ago, when my life really started to go down even more, I had a dream where lots of frogs jumped on me.
My God.
So that really witnessed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, Minister Kevin is going to answer you now.
Thank you, Jesus.
Right, Angela, right? Yeah, thank you for calling, Angela. Angela, believe it or not, question is a very common one. A lot of people that I sit with who were involved in sorcery or had things done to them, they will ask Christians to seek a certain person who would make certain concoctions to drink and so on. Now, I don't know if Angela's situation is where they do the incisions and they actually rub the different concoctions in it. And they have like little warts and stuff over different parts of their body. Here is how you get rid of that. This is where I would recommend the 3-day dry fast. Now, here is why. 3-day dry fast where you're 72 hours, non-stop, no eating, no drinking, just totally saturate yourself with the Word of God and so on and so forth. Here is why. Whatever concoctions, just if somebody puts some spiritual witchcraft or whatever in your food or your drink, anything that was mixed with, whether they put it in the rice or whatever, anytime you eat rice, whatever ingredients, it's going to reinforce or refuel that. The 3-day dry fast.
You said anytime you eat, that means not just what you ate that had in it, but if you go to a restaurant and eat
whatever
rice?
Ingredient was in there, the salt, whatever in the original concoction. Because those concoctions normally have of everything in it, because every time you eat your normal food, it's literally fueling or maintaining that evil in you. What the 3-day dry fast is, you go 3 days, 72 hours, non-stop, no eating. Your flesh is going to become extremely weak. That's why I call it some of the most brutal fast you would ever want to go on. And you're dealing with this thing now spiritually, head on with the scriptures during these 3 days. Before you go on this fast, though, all hate, resentment, unforgiveness, all of that got to get shut down from the beginning. You have to find a place where it's quiet. You don't need nobody getting you upset, because I'm going to tell you now, it's going to be a major fight.
Yes.
Because what they have in you is to lock you down.
Jesus.
Now, guess what? Even though you're a Christian, and I'm sure you're a witness of this, you've said it, the other caller said it, you're still limited in life. Why?
Yes.
Because they still have their spiritual hooks in you. So the 3-day dry fast, get the scriptures. The prayer rain book will be a perfect book to use.
Yes.
Pray during those 3 days, getting into God, reading the word. Preachers that you love to listen to, sit back while you're not reading and just let it play into your understanding. when you go to bed at night, you leave those preachers or the Bible on CD, just play it for the full 3 days. And I can guarantee you, you will be calling me with a testimony.
Amen.
She mentioned, what was the word that she said?
What's that?
Channel, what did she say? Strangers? What did she call it?
Strangers in the body.
Strangers in the body?
Yes.
Yes, what is that?
Well, basically, it's all a part of the demonic kingdom, evil spirits and so on. But what got me was the dream that she had with the frogs jumping on her. And they're just showing the infestation. Because the frogs represents evil spirits, just like Revelation 16 verse 13 says. And here it is, it's literally, and remember, what she saw in her dream as herself, that's her spirit.
That's right.
Remember, the physical her was asleep. So her spirit is being infested with these demonic forces. So it shows her that even though she left the cult, they're not going to roll out a red carpet for and say, okay, you could go. No. They're going to fight till she comes back.
My God.
Okay, that was Angela from the UK. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Wow.
Okay, and so right now, I hope she's still on the line. We go to Arlene in Sacramento, California. Hello, Arlene.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Hi, Kevin. Hi,
Hello.
Peter. Cindy, hello.
Good morning. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much. It's a miracle. I feel like it's a miracle that I even got through.
Wow. Good Lord.
So, yes, my question is, I have sent Kevin an email, and I've just been really patient, and that he would someday get to it, but it's okay because I listen to everything that he speaks about.
Amen.
Just a few months ago, and I would say somewhere in July, maybe even August, I was just searching on some things, and I ran into Stephen Darby, Witches Are Your Problem, and I began to listen to that. But then I would see Kevin's videos, and I kind of like, I didn't want to click on his video for some reason, but one day when I was at work, he had a message called Witches in the Workplace or something, and I clicked on it, and I began to listen to it, and that's how I found out about you, Kevin. And since then, after listening to everything, but I just want to say, I have been having dreams, and I have been having some physical manifestations in my dreams that, they come out in physical manifestations. For instance, I had a dream that I was, like Kevin speaks about, being back at a house where you grew up at. And some of these dreams, Kevin, I have dreams where I was at my aunt's house. I'm at my grandmother's house. And I have these dreams where I saw rats, and then they jumped out on me, and one actually bit me, and I felt this bite, like on my foot. And I woke up, but I began to feel the spirit of fear, and I rebuked it, and I rejected it. But I was like, wow, but this was like right before I started to listen to you, and then you begin to talk about, what these things are, spirit of poverty and things like that. Because also, for me, I've also been set back. Lose jobs, get laid off, going through these cycles. I've been to school, and then I get laid off, I get a job, I get laid off. My finances get to a point, I'm saving, and all of a sudden I have to use every bit of my finances to do everything, and then I'm down to nothing. And so I also had a dream where when I began to listen to you, because you did say the more you listen and learn, your dreams become more complex, where they did. And they started to bombard me. And so one night I had a dream where a spirit came and lifted me up and began to violently throw me up against the wall, throw me up against the ceiling, and I'm standing there and I'm watching this, but my body is in a sleep form, but I'm seeing this happening to me. And I'm just wondering, like, why I'm defenseless, why can't I do anything, why can't I say anything? So when I woke up, it felt like I was in a crash. This spirit was big, black, long arms. It was just violently throwing me up against the wall. So I got up, I prayed, I called my pastor. She knew exactly what it was. But, then I had another dream that I saw my family at my grandmother's house with a big tree. It was just sitting in front of my grandmother's house, and all my family members is hanging from it now. My son and I, we were not on this tree, but I still saw this tree, and I couldn't understand why this tree was there. And I said, well, I know what the scriptures say about hanging from a tree, hang from a tree is cursed. And I'm like, oh, what is this?
All right.
So, Kevin, I don't know if I have a question. I can't identify anybody in my family that has done anything, any type of witchcraft. I know my grandmother and grandfather is Christian, saved. I know people in my family, there may not be serving God, but I don't know of any witchcraft. And I know I have a cousin and my mom who is mentally ill, who has always said that someone put witchcraft on her.
Wow.
And I can recall a statue that used to be in our house, and I don't even know if my parents knew that this statue could be like an idol or something, because it looked like it was a Hindu or some type of statue. But I know that as a kid, I never experienced peace in the house. It's like this thing, God brought this thing back to my mind. I'm like, is this thing the thing that caused so many problems in our family? So I'm just trying to identify where is this coming from? Because I don't know people in my family that have done any of these things. So today, I am on a 3-day fast. I just want to let you know I am on a 3-day fast. I'm not drinking any water because I don't want another year like this. I don't want to go through another cycle. I just don't. So I'm sacrificing my time and my body so that this can stop. Because even my son, he told me a spirit came to him and said, Samuel, his name is Samuel Elijah. He said to my son, are you satisfied? My son said he's not asleep. And that's when I felt him come over to the bed and grab a hold of me. And then he said he had a dream about wolves chasing him. He said he was running. He said, but Mom, I had a sword on the side of my hip. And I said, you know what that sword was? And he said, yes, Tommy, it was the word, right? I said, well, yeah, you have the word God with you. So he said the wolves were chasing him, and finally, when they kept chasing him to go over a cliff, they would get over the cliff with them, and they'll do it the second time. But he said the third time, they fell through the cliff. And then he said he sees this spirit in his dreams, a man or something with grayish looking man, and he said he saw a little boy with a yellow coat on in the dream. Mm-hmm. But he's saying it's coming from some thing he's watching, but he said that he saw this thing and it just shook him.
Wow. And
shook him, So he has dreams and visions also.
Right.
So, okay.
Yes. First of all, Arlene, that's the name, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Arlene, I'm so happy that you called, and I'm so happy that, the radio listeners heard your story, and also Facebook watchers, because you have many people out there who have very difficult times believing this stuff. And here it is, someone is calling in all the way from, where's that, Sacramento, California, who's giving a real life. First and foremost, based on your dreams, especially the dreams where it's taking you back to your aunt, particularly your grandparents' house, you are dealing with generational curses, bottom line. But this is the part that stood out to me. I mean, this was the biggest elephant in the room to me. The dream where you saw the tree, I think in front of whomever home, and your family members hanging from it. But I love your little interpretation. You're good there. Yeah, what she said. Really curses anything that hangs upon a tree. Galatians 3. Beautiful interpretation. Yes. God is speaking to you from the root of your situation. Oh my God. Now, here's what happens. You may not be aware of any of your family members involved in witchcraft. This is also interesting in that, based on what you've said to me in terms of the dreams, this has nothing to do with your current generation. It has everything to do with generations in the past. And the things that they did, a part of the rituals that they did, and the sacrifices that they made to their demon gods, they sacrificed future generations. Thus the tree. Wow. Anyone who know about witchcraft and so on, anyone who know about witchcraft know that, for example, when folks having kids, they would tell them take the navel strings and bury it, the placenta, the little cord, and bury it under the tree in the yard and so on. This is what has happened. Someone, whoever did it in the past, whatever they wanted, whether it's health, wealth, relationship, they made a sacrifice to demon gods on behalf of the future generation.
Wow.
So the things that Arlene and her son and the rest of the family are going through has nothing to do with them, but everything to do with the fast, and that the fast needs to be broken. Arlene, please send me your phone number. I want to speak to you after the show.
My God. Powerful,
Okay,
my God.
okay, Arlene.
My God.
916.
No, give it to me on there. Just,
Yeah, you can send it even if you just
no, send it in my e-box. I can look for it. I'm going to look for it in my
he's
email.
going to at Kevin
Ewing
at coralwave.com.
Right.
Okay, and you can just send it, and you can send your number. And thank you so much for calling.
Wow.
It's Kevin Ewing at coralwave, coralwave.com.
Look for it.
Yeah, that's a good one. My God. It's powerful.
No, just Kevin Ewing at coralwave.com. Yes.
All over the world.
Yes. So we're taking time out with Arlene, all the way from Sacramento, California, because she took time out to call, and so you're special. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. She said she's from LA, but she lives in Sacramento.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, we have. Okay, thank you, Arlene.
My
We have
God.
Moremi from Alexandria, Virginia, on our line. Okay, she left. Hope she calls back. She was holding for a while.
Jesus.
Okay.
Thank you, Lord.
Was there anything you wanted to say, Prophet Peter, about the calls we've gotten so far? Anything?
Yes. I love what Minister Kevin said. A lot of people don't believe this stuff happening, and it's real. This woman calling all the way from Sacramento, is that it? To share her story and her journey into what has been captivity, and she's basically looking to get out. And this is so real, and yet there are a lot of people who don't want to hear about it. There are a lot of ministers that won't even preach about it in the church because of fear of the congregation, fear of people making them seem to be like they cuckoo. But it's not. It's really the Lord's ministry setting the captives free. And I love the answer he just gave, because it is a generational curse and a family tree line. It has nothing to do with her. Right. But she's reaping the rewards of a curse. And so that's why she's basically on her way out. And she's almost there, but of course the man of God is going to counsel her and give us some more instruction. But this thing is pandemic, and people are hurting, and yet, like you said, here you are talking to me and asking me about the covering, but yet you sit down with me 6, 7, 8 hours a day, trying to get delivered, but yet you will know where's my covering. It doesn't make sense. People are hurting and they need to get free, and a lot of people in the church won't talk about it. They don't want to hear about it. Don't come around me with this thing, because that's a bunch of foolishness. So, God has to raise up men and women of God, like Mr. Ewing, and other men of God, to get this word out without being fearful, because they want to make you look like you're crazy, or you're silly, or they try to ostracize you. But God, like you said, he'll reset his face like a flint to watch Jerusalem. He don't care. He doing what he's called to do. Mm-hmm. He's flowing in his calling, and so this is what God is doing. He's about setting his people free. He ain't about politicians and politics and playing church. He wants his people to be set free in the season.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go to the phone line, and we say good morning. Hello, you're on the air. Hello? Okay, let's check. Oops. Mm-hmm. Yes, hello, how are you? Yes, I can hear you.
I just had a question for Prophet Peter.
Okay, as you're speaking, can you tell us your name, please, and where you're calling from?
Sorry. I'm Lynette, and I'm ringing from Australia.
Oh, Australia. What's your first name?
Lynette.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
I think my connection's a bit bad. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
So just a question. So hello, I'm so blessed with watching your show. It's 3:30 in the morning. And I'm in my living room listening to all of you.
Wow.
So my question is to Prophet Peter. I know we're all dreamers, and we have dreams. But what about if you have sort of premonitions where you sort of have a little glimpse into an event that happens in the future?
Okay.
And then say a couple of days or a does that...
Okay, so let's let him answer. Go ahead.
Okay, can you repeat? I really didn't hear.
She was saying, what happens if she has like a premonition
Okay.
about something that's going to happen?
Okay.
Something that's going to happen. The phone dropped. That something that's going to happen is that you have a premonition about it, and then it happens.
Okay.
What is that about?
Deja vu.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, that sounds like what the Lord is doing to her is basically giving her a snapshot. It's like a deja vu type of scenario, but that's what I call a literal vision or dream. You know, it's like you literally see it happen in the vision, and then a couple of days it happens later. That is almost like foretelling, but it sounds as though God is opening her seer's vision eyes. In other words, she's coming into the seer's ministry, and I think that's what is happening. As you get closer to God and as you begin to fast and pray, you begin to see more things. But you know that is something that happens sometimes. You see it and then it comes to pass. That is almost like a prediction, but it's also foretelling. There's foretelling, and sometimes those visions are accurate. It doesn't sound like it's symbolic, so that means it's literally happening. That means God has given you a snapshot into the future, and He's showing you things that He's gonna do or say. So He's probably raising you up as a seer and a prophet. So you might want to journal it, as Minister Kevin say, write stuff down and begin to say, "Thank you, Lord, send more." Amen.
Okay, thank you.
Amen.
All right, we lost the call, but glad we were able to answer. Let's go to another caller, and we say, "Good morning, thanks for calling." Hi, where are you calling from? Oh, you're in Nassau. Okay, wonderful to have you. And what's your name? Well, you're on air already, you know. Okay, just go ahead. Can you speak up for me, please?
I'm coming from Nassau.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Judy.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, I'm on the 3-day fast, and Mr. Kevin keeps talking about having dreams, but I have not been having dreams. Am I doing something wrong?
Good one.
He's going to answer.
That is an excellent and very much common question that I get once you start any fast, whether it's a 3-day or whatever fast. Remember, when you're going on a fast, once you start that fast, your spirit man now is being ushered into the spiritual realm. As a result of that, one of two things are going to happen. You're going to either have rapid dreams, which is showing you the spiritual state that you're in, what's up against you or pending for you, what have you, or because this has a lot to do with your gifts and calling also, because your gifts and callings are so, I guess, so vast, so great, then the enemy will now send in demonic forces to either erase your dream altogether or bring total confusion where you don't understand them at all. So it's very common. In fact, this is clear evidence that your fast is really working. Mm-hmm. So don't believe because you're not dreaming. No, whether you are dreaming or not dreaming, again, it all has to do with the spiritual realm. So what you have, I don't know if you've been on my blog spot, kevinlaewing.blogspot.com. I have like about 5 or 6 articles dealing specifically with dreams being erased, not being able to recall your dreams. All it's really saying is the spiritual attack. Whatever God has called you to do and to be as a person, the enemy is fighting tooth and nail that you have none of that intelligence. Another thing too, the dream world is literally the intelligence branch of your spiritual warfare. Just like in any army, they have an intelligence branch that retrieve information from the enemy's camp so that they can now strategize how to deal with their enemies. So therefore, when you go into your fasting and you now begin to dream or even not dream, especially if you're not dreaming, then it says to me now that the intelligence branch of your spiritual warfare is being challenged by the enemy. You now, while you're on the fast, you need to come against every spirit that's coming against your dream life. Because obviously they're trying to hold back information that you need in order to have success, particularly coming in within the next year.
Okay. And we appreciate your call from Nassau. Okay. Anything you want to say, Prophet Reader?
Yes. everybody is unique and different, and so what might happen for someone might not happen exactly as planned for the other person. So God knows what He's doing, and what the man of God said about the intelligence branch, with dream. That's what they do. They use to come in and try to ascertain information on you to pass on the relevant demonic spirits. So as you're fasting and as you're going through this period, recognize that you're coming out of it as you. Like I said, use the prescriptions that Minister Ewing is giving. It's very powerful. It's simple, it's brutal, it's hard, but it works. It's like Buckley's. It tastes bitter, but it works.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Let's go to the phone lines again. And good morning, and thank you for calling.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
My name is Marie Fletcher, and I'm calling from Alexandria, Virginia.
Wow.
Okay, Virginia.
Yes, Virginia. I wanted to say good morning to everyone, to you, Cindy, to Minister Kevin Ewing, and also to Prophet as well. I started to listen to some of Minister Ewing's teachings in regards to dreams. I'm also a licensed minister myself, and I know that the Father does speak through dreams to people to show them what they're going to be embarking upon and those types of things. But when I started learning some of the teachings of Minister Ewing, I was able to tap into why things were continually happening to me. But I do have a question for Minister Ewing in regards to names, because my name is of a Yoruban background. I was renamed as a 9-year-old child. My initial name was Khadija, which was a Muslim name. But when my mother married this Yoruban man, he renamed all of the children and adopted her children. But my name has a spiritual connotation behind it that says she was a princess or a goddess of some sort. And in the dream, she did some things to help. In the name or the name meaning, she did some things to help her kingdom and all of this. And then there was a sacrifice that she had to sacrifice her son. I consequently do have a son and a daughter. I didn't want to have to change my name again, but I feel like some of these things are attached to, some of the things that they do in the Yoruban culture, some of the voodoo practices that they have. There has been exposure of that in our family, from my mother to my great-grandmother to, even the extended family, the Yoruban family as well. So my question is, should I pursue possibly changing my name because of the spiritual connotations that are attached to it?
And you said your name is Moremi.
Yes, but it's pronounced Moremi.
Oh, Moremi, okay.
Yes, Moremi. And it was changed when I was about 9 years old, and I was adopted by my stepfather. And I've been the black sheep of the family. When I did this 3-day fast, there was some revelation, even though I already knew that my mother was involved in some things. She believed in the pendulum, and she believed in, using these things, doing Reiki and all kinds of stuff. And, my great-grandmother was an Eastern Star. My great-grandfather was a Freemason. So I know that some of the things that have happened to me in my lifetime has been from these demonic practices. I'm just trying to get some insight, because I don't want to be attached to something that's spiritual that is going to cause me to have to sacrifice my son or anything like that, So I just would like to have some type of insight.
Okay, Moremi, hold on for us.
Yes, Moremi, very, very interesting question. And yes, you need to have that name changed. And here is why. when we go back to, and again, we will always go back to Scripture, because once we have the core understanding, now you understand why the enemy not only duplicates but perverts what God has as a principle.
Yes, my God.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they're not just names on a physical human.
My God.
The name itself speaks to the destiny of that individual, and by extension, all that comes from them.
My God.
So when Abraham, and I can't remember exactly what his name meant, because remember it was Abram first.
Yeah.
Then God changed it to Abraham, just like with Jacob. Jacob became Israel.
Yes.
Israel spoke of a nation. It spoke of God's people.
That's right.
So when we look at the meaning of that name,
My God, my God.
from a biblical perspective, we now see what God's original plan or intent was,
Amen.
not just for that individual, but what they were called to do and whom they were called to do it to, as it relates to facilitating the plan of God.
Yes, my God.
Now that's the good side. When we're dealing with names from the satanic kingdom, whether we're dealing with secret society, sorcery, esoterics, or any of that, these names comes from evil altars.
My God.
These are the names that the spirits of that altar gave the practitioners of that altar, the witch, the warlock, and so on, to those who come seeking solution. Yes, we will do this for you, but this is what we need you to do. That name literally is equivalent to what happened to Cain when he killed his brother, and the mark that was placed on him.
Yes, my God.
So your name have you marked in the spiritual realm to attract evil forces of hardship, setback, rejection to your life.
My God.
Now, based on what you just said, that's aside from the things that your grandmother was involved with, Eastern Star, the pendulum, the mace, all of this only adding to it.
My God.
But for now, we need to deal with that name.
Yes, change the name, change the name.
So change the
My
name.
God.
Oh, yeah.
Powerful.
Okay, more ME.
Change the name.
And the thing about the whole thing is that as a 9-year-old child, you agree to these things because you don't know any better.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm thinking because, they're saying, oh, the name means you're a goddess of beauty, and it has such a grand,
Right.
connotation to it that they're trying to make it, you're this queen and you're this beautiful thing. But when I went to do the research about it, it was very disturbing as I started coming to the knowledge of what Minister Ewing has been teaching. And I'm upset because, I don't want to upset my parents, at the same time, and they know what they've done. My mother is very, very, very aware of some of the things. She was like, well, if you want to change your name, you can change your name. But I just don't want to be attached to something that is demonic, period.
So you can just go back to your former name, yes?
Well, that's a Muslim name. Khadijah was a Muslim name. I don't know where that came from. And it's kind of, she was like the wife of Muhammad, and I'm not a Muslim.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no.
All right.
So I don't know what to name myself.
What about Cindy? It means light.
It would be beautiful, yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's better than Kevin or Peter.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for calling. Minister Kevin wants to say something else.
Right. I just want to add to that because it just shows the seriousness of this. Remember when King Nebuchadnezzar had captured the children of Israel, brought them into Babylon. What was the first thing he did to Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? He changed their names.
Yes.
He changed, and the
That's
names were
powerful, right?
relative to their evil altars
Yes.
that they serve.
Yes. My God, that's
All
powerful.
right, thank you so much. So you have to let us know when you have your new name, okay? That should be a lot of fun.
I shall. Thank you so very much.
Okay, God bless you. Thanks for calling. Okay. We go back to the phone lines and we say good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Yes. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
My name's Lori Brewster, and I'm from Tyler, Texas. I am a woman. Use my voice. Okay. cold and allergies. But good morning, Miss Cindy and Mr. Kevin and Mr.
I know, Laurie.
Prophet Peter, God bless you guys.
God bless you.
I really just think that what I have is a comment, if it's okay.
Yes, ma'am, that's fine. Go ahead.
Wonderful. I made a comment earlier on the timeline regarding just thanking God that every joint truly supplies. And Miss Cindy, thank you so much for opening up the space on your show for Minister Kevin and for Prophet Peter to minister the Word of God. And I just honestly wanted to say, Minister Ewing, God bless you for your ministry. Prophet Peter, God bless you for your ministry. And I'm thankful to God for the dual sound. You know, that it's sound doctrine. It's almost turning into an absolute deliverance ministry on the radio this morning and online. And I thank God that it's aligning itself with the Word of God. So, excuse a little allergy in Texas. But I did want to say good morning and so thankful to just have the opportunity to just stream in. I'm continually blessed. And although there's a lot of ministry that goes forth, there's a very undeniable sound in ministry doing ministry. And I just thank God for him, for his family, for you, Miss Cindy. Mr. Prophet Peter, you have been a tremendous blessing this morning as well, just your testimonies and the opportunity just to align with what's being said. It's just a tremendous blessing to hear authentic, sincere people of God ministering. So it's just unselfishly taking out the time to minister to others. And so I sincerely, from this little southern girl from Texas, just really want to thank y'all so much. God bless you guys and happy New Year.
Wow.
Amen.
I want to say before I get off so quickly, thank God for the crossover, because what we're getting this morning are prerequisites. We're just not going to jump into the promised land and far off, but there are prerequisites before we enter therein. So I'm just so thankful for having a chance to receive. Thank you guys so much.
And thank you for taking the time out to call us all the way here in the Bahamas. And it's like ZNS is taking the Bahamas to the world. We thank God for that, for this platform. I don't take it lightly. It's a job for me, yes, but it's really expanded to something else. And also tonight, at about 7:30 or so, Prophet Peter Spencer will be back, and we will do more talking. She's saying, woo! We'll do more talking and also a lot of praying as well. So you can call back if you want to, and we'll get a lot of prayers in tonight. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes. And I just want to publicly too thank Minister Kevin. He has a huge following. And the other night on Thursday, he was so kind to share the Facebook video that we were doing, the live broadcast of the show, with his viewers, and it just went everywhere. And we got a wonderful response. So we want to thank you, Minister Kevin. And it's so wonderful to know that we're like working together.
Yes.
Amen.
And it's all just for the work of the Lord.
Amen.
Right. Okay, so let's go to our phone lines again. And we say, good morning, and thanks for calling.
Hi.
Hello. That's a big hello.
Hi. I have a serious problem. I don't want to mention the prophet's name, but Kim Clement. I was very, very spiritually close to him, and God connected me to him. And I received half of his gifting. I'm scared now because I see that since he spiraled down, that's when I started. He had even invited me to a show through God, all expenses paid. I was off the wall prophetic night encounters. I had his gifting was transferred to me, and I was dreaming about ISIS. I left a comment in the comment section explaining some of this.
Okay.
And, I had ISIS dreams that were so terrifying, but they would happen within a day to a week. To the flood water crisis, I knew about all kinds of things right before they happened. And now I'm scared because I don't know if I should be disconnecting from his spirit or what, because I'm dying. I feel it, I know it, I see it. I cannot remember my dreams, and they are life to me. my giftings are blocked. I just made a comment to God. I said, I don't want these dreams anymore. They were so violent, but they were coming true. And they stopped immediately. And since then, it's just gotten to where I can't remember any. It's like they're just erased or something. And I know I'm meant to help so many people, but I'm heading for death.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned, you said that your leader that you were under, that he spiraled down?
He died.
Yeah, he's dead now. He's one that was taken out, Kim Clement. I watched him over the broadcasts and sent emails and became close to them. They had invited me. He invited me out right before his death. I was supposed to be there. I don't know why. Kim Clement, have you ever heard of him?
Yeah. Yes. So they're going to give a comment because we want to get at least 2 more calls in. I see we have people still on the line. So just hold for us and just listen.
Okay, first of all, there's a word you constantly use in your conveying your comment. You keep saying scared and fearful. First of all, the scripture says to us in 2 Timothy 1:7, God has not given us the spirit of fear. To the extent where you're trying to say to yourself now, oh God, I don't even want these dreams anymore. So what you're really saying is, God, I don't want the messages for the masses anymore. God, I don't want the messages to release your people anymore. What you need to do is pray against the spirit of fear. The enemy is attacking you in this area to subdue you from going out there and being whom God has called you to be. Shut down the spirit of fear. Ask God to amplify your gift, and things will work out for you.
Amen.
All right. Should I get rid of his mantles?
No, those things. No, I mean, I know of him, but what I'm saying to you is that you don't have his spirit. You have your own spirit. You have your own giftings. He was just a mentor. He was just the one to usher you into where you were supposed to be. Now that you are there, everything is about God now and amplifying who you are.
Praise God.
Okay, thanks for calling. You too. Okay. All right. And let's go to the phone lines once again. Hello, you're on the air. Hello, good morning. Okay, let's go to the next call. Radio Bahamas, good morning. Yes.
My name's Joan, and I'm calling from Sweden.
Wow.
Good morning, June. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, I have a question, actually. I don't even know how to frame it. I've been watching Minister Kevin's videos. I can't even remember what I was looking on day in, day out. I've been dreaming in the toilet, especially. Last spring toilet, I dream, like, for example, I want to go eat myself, and then I get into a really soiled up toilet, very filthy with a human feces. I have been dreaming with snakes. Like last night, I dreamt with like a half-naked dark lady, and I could see the private parts because they're just putting their legs wide open. I'm sorry. And I was thinking, how weird is it? I didn't even want to look at it because I thought this is not it's not a common thing to see people sitting like that and just looking at me. So really, even with like I was picking coins in an old graveyard with my mother and my father. I was picking coins, giving them to my father. And I dreamed so many scary dreams for me. And in the video, I listened to him. I said, oh, that's me. I've been dreaming that. I experienced that. And sometimes I have been fasting and praying, but it's so overwhelming for me because I don't know where it is sometimes.
Okay.
And the same thing, whatever he said, everything I have is only.
Okay. We have a few short minutes in our show. I want them to be able to answer you. So can you just hold and just let them answer you? Okay.
Okay, first of all, as it relates to the dream, again, it's speaking about a spiritual life. Remember, your spiritual life is automatically dictating your physical life. She's dreaming.
And as you're going on, someone just texted me and asked us to kind of reiterate because they said it was a little muffled. She says about the dream she's been having a lot of dreams, Minister Kevin, about, you heard what she said?
But the latrine, which is the toilets and so on, feces and so on, and how she's seeing a lot of it, seeing people naked, private parts and so on. Again, the dream is speaking about her spiritual life, which is also talking about why things are the way that it is in the natural. If you're dreaming about feces, you're in it, it's always over the place, then it speaks about a spirit of disgrace that is on your case.
Wow.
A spirit of disgrace, shame, dishonor.
My God.
You see yourself picking up coins or coins being laid out in the graveyard. It's telling me someone has cursed your finances. So I'm sure she's going through difficulty in her finances, difficulty with poverty, lack, not being able to have sufficient. These things aren't happening because they could. Someone is fighting you spiritually. Now, here is what I also see. Because it's been happening for such a long time, it can be coming from two areas. One, either someone is projecting these curses at you, or two, you may come from a lineage where your background served idols, shrines, where they were part of secret societies. The key here is in all of those covenants, leagues, agreements were made, but they were made with demonic altars.
My God.
As a result of that, the enemy now has a foothold in your family lineage. So everyone from the point those covenants were established will deal with the curses that you're facing right now. Your fast, if you're on one now, add to that right now, asking God to break the evil covenants that's giving these spirits access to your life.
My God, my God.
Okay, we have time for, one more caller. And we say good morning. Yes, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hey, this is Dion Craig. I'm calling from Yonkers, New York.
Okay, what's your first name?
Dion.
Dion, nice to have you calling us from Yonkers. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'm calling because I have a lot of dreams of where I grew up, which was my grandfather's home, with animals always chasing me. Sometimes it's dogs, sometimes it's cats. But what bothers me the most is I'm always having dreams about me having sex. Sometimes it's with men, sometimes it's with women. Like I had a dream, a woman knocked on my door asking for her children. When I told her that the only children that's here is my children, she said, can she come to my bedroom? When we came to my bedroom, when she removed her pants, it was a woman. The body, the face, everything was a woman. But when she removed her pants, it was a penis.
Wow.
And we had intercourse in a dream, and she ejaculated. Sperm was all over the wall and everything. And I just keep having dreams like this repeatedly. And I'm also on a fast right now, so I wonder if Minister Kevin could give me a little insight of what's going on about all of these sexual dreams.
Yeah, very quickly. Animals chasing you in a dream, witchcraft. Voodoo, witchcraft. Someone in your family. If it's taking you back to your grandfather house, whoever house, then someone in your family lineage was involved in it. The mere fact that you're having sex with these people or whatever, it's renewing, it's reinstating you, reinitiating you to the evil altars that was a part. Each sexual act is tying you to another level of demonic activity, which that altar is portraying. You have to pray and fast against the spirit of witchcraft.
Amen. Jesus.
Okay. All right, we are absolutely out of time. Our news is coming up next. But what we're going to do, if they're able to, is kind of keep it going on the Facebook if you want for a few more minutes, if you're able to, gentlemen, if you want to. And we'll just do what we need to do on this side. Stay tuned and stay with us. Coming up next, it's our local news.
Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Amen.
And we want to remind you that tonight at 7:30, Prophet Peter will be back with us in studio, and we will do more prayers as we cross over. Okay? Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I learned something. I learned. Glory be to God. Oh my God, this is awesome.